So this is the second evening that I'm looking at a brand new piece that I'm playing and practicing, and it's Prelude and Fugue in E minor from the this book of little preludes and little fugues. So this is the section with the little preludes and fugues that are paired together. And I found this one, I actually play through them, and one of them interests me. I decide to learn them. So what I'm going to share is my learning from the ground up, how I learn from the ground up, and what I look for. So my learning has a deep level even from the beginning, but I do stepwise practicing. Now, what I noticed about this gorgeous E minor prelude is there are a lot of parallel broken sixths. So that's something that jumps out at me when I just stare at the score. And beside the broken sixth would be like a broken sixth. This is a broken sixth. You can see me playing broken sixth. He also likes to have harmonic sixths. That means they're not broken, but they're played simultaneously. At the very beginning, he has the parallel sixth right there. So he has interspersed broken sixths and some harmonic sixths. And then when you turn a sixth upside down, by the way, and you invert it, let's take a look at this sixth. You get a third. So he has some thirds thrown in there too. So they relate to the idea of inverting a sixth, or a sixth inverted becomes a third. So that's something to note cognitively, because it's the cognitive side of learning. Now the thing that I want to bring home today in learning music is try not to play up and down pokey fingers, because if you hear yourself doing that from the very start, it's going to be hard to undo the habit. The ear already registered what it first heard, and you're going to have to keep undoing what it first heard. You don't want to do that. You want to play slow enough to give an auditory reflection of what you want to hear inside of you. So you have to hear it before you play it, so to speak. Now my teacher used to have me do things like this first on this piece. She used to have me play each note and be very loose from my wrists through my arms. She had me do this first. And of course you have to rotate over. So you don't want to stiffen up your hand. And then you can already see when you do these broken sixths, you're rotating them. And I always play my thumb softer than the other fingers. It tends to poke out. So this is what I'm doing first. What's good about this is I'm really tracking the melodic content of this. That's basically the basic idea of this prelude, by the way. It's not a fugue, but it has a basic idea. Now, that was first playing it just going up and down, so to speak, but having a flowing sense of note to note. Now when I look at the first three notes, it's a broken chord, and if I sang it, I would not intone each note as if it's going up and down, but I think of a group. I'm going to start thinking of groups of notes now, just this little fragment. And if I sang it, hardly use any arm weight. Let's say I wanted to now play it deeper in the keys. I don't want to change that flow. I'm just going to use additional weight of my arm. Weighing into the keys. Don't get faster, but now play it a little bit more out there. If you notice that last G, it's easy to thump down at the end of a little phrase, because that's like a little phrase there. The way you avoid the crashing end of the phrase is you go a little forward with your wrist. So your wrist is playing your thumb. That's very nice, tapering. Now he goes to a new phrase. It's like that was a phrase, even though it was just one going into the second measure. Now there's an answer to that, which is this. Now what I do here, this is now in eighth notes, I just play the upper voice because we're going to have some harmonic sixths. I want to hear first the upper voice of the sixth so I know how to balance it. In this case, to the upper voice. So, and there's a finger switch here in the music. I think it's good. So you can get a legato here. So I'm listening to the top voice. These are thirds, but I'm just playing the top voice of the third. And then we don't have any more harmonic intervals. We're going to go into a melodic strand like this, back to. So it's just at a little interval of harmonic sixths. The lower voice is important to do, so look at the lower voice of the sixth, which be parallel six would have steps then on the bottom like this. I could probably do this legato too. Probably should do it legato. Because I'm going to play legato as much as I can. But I drag the upper voice to get the... And now you're going to drag over to here. Do that again. And just go forward. And then parallel fingers. 4-2, 3-1. Now the resolution to the G comes through this strand. You can see there's the E up there. It's interesting, it's almost... I mean, you're kind of thinking over groups of notes. So you're thinking, again, groups of notes and not individual notes. Now, this next strand is lots of 16th notes in there. It should be very wavy, very wavy. So this is a bunch of sequences, really. You could hear the sequences down as he does it. Step down. You can see that I'm playing groups of notes. I'm not doing the up and down notes. Now let's look a little at the left hand. We have single note, and we have parallel thirds. Remember, sixths inverted are thirds. And then comes 2 there. And right away, he's doing an imitation now of the idea of what he did at the beginning, not the exact notes where he's going. You can recognize this. You can notice when you get to the second measure of this that what appeared as the basic subject in the first measure with this broken chord and then the broken sixth, which are from the bottom up sixths. The little broken chord in between, and then a bottom note up to the sixth. The left hand, when it comes in, is going to overlap what's in the right hand. It's going to be an inverted counterpoint. But it's also going to invert the subject. The subject came down with a broken chord and then did these broken sixths from the bottom up. Now instead of coming down, he's going up, and then he's going to go top note, bottom note. So top, bottom, broken chord, and top, bottom. So that's very important because when you play this out, you have to make sure the listener hears that you're overlapping the counterpoint, but you went in the opposite direction as the subject was in the beginning. We call it a subject. It's fine to call it a subject. So first we have going very slowly. Bottom up, bottom up. Now here comes left hand. Top, bottom, top, bottom. Just wanted to give you a little snatch of that. So indeed, he flipped the counterpoint in the sense that these eighths, these are little thirds, but they were eighth notes again, 16ths. When this came in this hand, we went to eighths in this hand, but not with thirds, but with sixths for a moment. And then a third comes in here. And now he's got the parallel third. So that's important. When you play the two voices together, you don't want to make the left hand somewhere buried under the rug, which often happens with Bach, where the right hand seems to jump out all the time, but the counterpoint or the interaction of the voices is lost. So since I'm just learning it, I'm going very slowly. It's a beautiful melody. Answer maybe slower there. Resolve to there. Remember, I'm going really tiptoeing, and I probably should do separate hands. Continue my left hand. I first do legato, everything's legato. Later I do groupings, so work on that. I'm going to group certain notes together or lift my hands. I want to be able to sing both lines. Notice how I'm dragging the fingers. Drag your fingers. So then when you play this, you get a lot of traction. Wrist forward on these resolutions of dominant. By the way, that's G major suddenly. So he's done E minor, and then he went into the relative major. That's another thing you should take note of. What keys am I in? When do I change? Also look at the sequences. Now let's see what he does next in terms of the right hand. So we're rolling this arpeggio, the broken 5/7 chord of G major. Going to that note. Now you start a new one. Now we're going back to E minor, I think, for a moment. Let's see. Let's see what it is. Now, E minor, definitely. You can hear that dominant of E minor. It's a B chord, B7. And now he has a little scale. Let's see what the scale in 30 seconds. I go a little slower. So beautiful. So this is a little scale in E minor, meandering around. And this is really where you need groupings and you don't want pokey notes. Now some Bach players would do this. I wouldn't play Bach like that because this is, to me, very, very wavy. So I would definitely have my traction, but I would think that I'm making wavy lines. Rolling motion, higher note of coming back to the other hand doing. Shape that nicely. You have to decide how you're going to shape that. It doesn't want to be flat, that's for sure. Now when he gets to this next part, I'm just going to do a little bit more to give you the basic idea of learning this. Something a little bit different here. When he does this, E minor now. So he does common tones, but he has now a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth. A fifth and a sixth. And then different key, by the way. We're in B minor. You can hear the B minor. Now I just want to do a different fingering. Inner voice. Upper voice. Inner voice. Upper voice. Knowing there are two voices and I'm not equalizing them. to E minor. This is such a beautiful thing. But he did go into the B minor key. Now the B minor key would be what would be called the dominant minor of E minor. In other words, it's all right. Now where he did that was when he did this right here, which would be because he injected that A sharp into the picture. Once you have that A sharp and the C sharp, by the way, both, you form the dominant of B minor or B major, but he went to B minor. So those notes, those chromatic notes going to A sharp, A went to A sharp, C went to C sharp, created a modulation to the B minor. And that's important to know. While that's happening, the left hand is definitely going along with it. But has parallel. Where do we get this from? The 6. Reminds us of beginning. He's got different keys, but he's picking up that very idea of the opening but transposed into B minor. So that's important to know. It's all this cognitive stuff to know, the physical stuff, the way you're shaping the lines, cognitive, affective, and kinesthetic is how you physically implement all these things together. But you have to go slowly. That left hand is coming back with separate hands is always good. So you want to hear this. Wonderful one to learn. So if we go slowly together, we have. But you want to hear both ideas. Gives you just a synopsis of this piece, what's going on. And there's another couple of places where he goes into 30-second notes, which I first showed you, these little intervals. They're like, you could say they're improvised little places where he decides to just ad libidums, almost, where he goes. So beautiful, beautiful piece. The very end he has back in E minor, but he has these parallel broken sixths in the same harmonic rhythm. It's the first time he does it.